The science of creativity. 3 keys to unlock instant inspiration. Welcome to the second part of really this 2-part series this week I put together on creativity. If you watched this first video Monday, you know that there is a psychology to creativity, the ways that our brain has learned to think about ourselves, about who you are as a person, and whether you consider yourself creative or not matters. It matters in terms of how your brain sees yourself, but it also matters in terms of your creative output and how hard it is for your brain to be able to engage that creative capacity when you need it in your business. The other part of the series today is focused on the science and specifically the neuroscience of creativity. And I'm going to share with you 3 keys to unlock instant inspiration when you need it by activating key zones in your brain. Okay, let's dive in. Why am I talking so much about creativity this week, you might be wondering? Because creativity is really key for our success as small business owners, especially for those of us course creators, coaches, those of us who show up in this online space. I think we can all agree that money comes from ideas. Ideas come from inspiration. And therefore, the more you're able to activate that instant inspiration in your business, the greater your capacity is, the more capable you are of making some cash in your business, right? So how do we do that? The hiccup is, if you're anything like me, it is really hard to prioritize creativity because our brains tell us all these stories about whether creative. Go back and watch Monday's video if you haven't learned more about that yet to hear me explain why that's important, but also these stories about the value of creativity. Because when we have never-ending to-do lists, everything else feels like more of a priority. It feels like more of a priority for me to be able to see my clients, do my client work, do the paperwork I need to get done, follow up on emails, keep up with my bookkeeping, do all that day-to-day stuff that keeps our business running. And we end up feeling guilty because creative work, giving ourselves that space to really foster creativity, feels like something extra, feels like something we just don't have time for, and it also doesn't always immediately equal cash. If I spend a month creating a new course or a couple hours creating a new video like this, it's not going to immediately make me money, right? It's part of the long game that we're creating as business owners who want to make an impact on our communities and on the world. We're playing a long game, and that long game is really hard for our brains to focus on. You've probably heard me say that before. And so creativity ends up feeling like a luxury. It feels like something we just don't have time for. Or we end up waiting around for inspiration to strike. We wait around thinking if I just give myself time, eventually I'll feel creative. The problem is that doesn't happen, right? Especially when we're feeling stretched thin. Our resources, your brain's capacity, the energy that your brain has is probably already running low. Creativity is a really high level cognitive skill. That means it takes a lot of brain power. So when I am sitting here staring at my screen, trying to willpower myself to create a new video or a blog or write an article or finally write that book, that is taking a ton of brain power. And if I'm starting from an empty tank, if I'm already starting feeling stretched thin and a little bit exhausted and burnt out, I don't have the creative juices. They're not going to be flowing. And we end up feeling a bit resentful. We start to hate posting on social media, right? We start to feel like social media is just like a must do. Like, oh, I have to figure out something to post. I hate being on there. It feels like it's not fun anymore. We start to feel like we just need to like crank out anything that we can to grow our audience. Or we end up feeling like we're just grasping at straws, doing a million different things, their hands in a million different tasks that not only does not feel strategic, so that part of our brain's not happy, but it doesn't feel fun. It doesn't feel like we're giving ourselves that space for creativity, that space for joy, that space to have that spark. And our business starts to feel like a chore. I'm in a business, kind of like a mastermind business community. And on one of our group coaching calls this week, that was the theme. I was listening to woman after woman, it's mostly women in this group, female business owners who are making multi-six figures, but are saying they're just exhausted, that they want to just burn their business down because it doesn't feel like something fun anymore. It feels like something they just have to show up for because they need the cash. They don't want to fail on their business and everything they've worked so hard for, but there's no joy. There's no motivation. There's no spark. There's no fun. There's no creativity anymore. And they feel like they just keep pushing through because hoping maybe it will get better. It doesn't have to feel that way. I'm a neuroscientist, and I'm here to tell you that there is a science to creativity. Creativity is a skill that can be grown and one that you can learn to activate on demand. So contrary to what you might believe, creativity is not some magical innate talent that you're either born with or you're not. Creativity doesn't require channeling your inner goddess while you burn sage and drink a bunch of kombucha, unless you're really into that thing. Great, power to you. And it doesn't require having the perfect Zen retreat, this quiet house, or this picture perfect high vibe connection 24/7. Because your creative power is already in your brain. Your brain has these skills. Your brain has these abilities. You just need to know how to activate them when you need them. And creativity for entrepreneurs is a lot more broad than you probably realize. It also includes things like divergent thinking, so you can activate what's called your prefrontal cortex, more on that in a second, so you can enjoy posting on social media again because it feels fun, energizing, and meaningful. Creativity for entrepreneurs involves being able to harness your rich expressive language networks so you can sit down and crank out an article or a bunch of blog posts and feel like you're really making an impact because what you're creating is aligned with your values and your purpose in your business. Creativity involves enhancing the connectivity between your brain hemispheres, more on that as well in a second, so you can finally feel like the creative person that you've always wanted to be but never felt like you could achieve. It is possible to intentionally activate the neural networks involved in creativity on demand, and you've probably done it before, unintentionally. Let me explain. 3 keys to feeling like you can activate your creative juices on demand, to be able to intentionally inspire that imagination, that creativity that you're looking for. Key number 1, you need to be able to activate something called your default mode network. If you have ever been standing in your shower and you got this brilliant idea for an amazing hook to use on Instagram or a really cool strategy that you're going to share with your clients in your group coaching program, or an idea for an amazing article on how to word it absolutely perfectly, you've been unintentionally using this default mode network. Your default mode network is this network of brain regions, this network of connectivity that's activated when we're not actively thinking of something. It's your do nothing network. It is what you are engaging when you're daydreaming, when you're letting your mind wander, when you're standing in the shower thinking about nothing and all of these creative ideas start to come to you. The default mode network is where our brain has that space for creativity, that space for divergent thinking, that space to be able to look outside of the box. But most of us do not give ourselves that space because we are the hard workers. We are the responsible ones, and there is zero time to just stand there and let my mind wander, right? We're taught not to give ourselves that space to activate those networks, or even that it's a bad thing to let my mind wander or to zone out or to think about nothing for a little bit. We're taught that we should always be doing, we should always be striving. And so it takes practice to be able to intentionally engage that default mode network. The second key is to be able to increase the connectivity between your brain's hemispheres. You have a left side of the brain and a right side of your brain. You have 2 hemispheres or sides to your brain. But that pop psychology idea of someone being more left or right brained is a bunch of nonsense. We use all of our brain all of the time. Both sides are equally important. They are connected by this band of what's called white matter. Those are the connections between the brain cells in your brain, called your corpus callosum. There's another place that's connected, which is called your optic chiasm, which is where your eyes, the messages from your eyes come in. But the one that's important for us is that corpus callosum. It is the place that connects those hemispheres of your brain. When you are engaging both sides of your brain simultaneously, you are creating stronger connections in those pathways. We know that when we are activating both sides of our brain, both hemispheres, when we are increasing that connectivity in that white matter space, we are going to have more creative thinking. We are going to be better at problem solving. We are going to be better at the out of the box type of thinking that you need to thrive as a business owner. And the third key to be able to unlock that instant inspiration you need in your business is to strengthen the specific brain centers involved in your creativity. Here are some of them. I mentioned that prefrontal cortex. That is the part of your brain that is towards the front, like it sounds. A lot of skills are mediated by this prefrontal cortex, but it is really important for us as a species because it is something that separates us from a lot of other animals. A lot of animals do not have the intricate connections that we have there, and it allows for us to be really creative and divergent in our thinking, to be able to problem solve and think outside the box when you need to come up with some amazing new hooks for social media, or you need to be able to come up with a really new and exciting system for your clients that really streamlines processes for them and makes things easier for them to understand what you're teaching. The prefrontal cortex is key. Another specific center that we need to be able to activate to inspire creativity are our rich language networks, mediated partly by our frontal lobe, but also by our temporal lobe. And those are involved in any tasks where we're going to require language, which, to be honest, if you're in this online space, is most of your work, right? It's most of mine. I sit here and talk all day, or I sit here and write all day. We need this rich language network to be able to harness that creativity, to be able to come up with new and creative ideas in our business. And we also need our visual centers and our visual creativity centers, our spatial skills that are involved in problem solving through what's called our parietal lobes and some of our subcortical structures in our brain that are involved in not only finding creative out of the box solutions, but allow us to look at how things might fit together, be able to create new concepts, to be able to integrate that information. When you can intentionally activate inspiration and creativity, you're going to be relying on increasing that interconnectivity between your brain centers, taking advantage of that default mode network that I mentioned, and really strengthening those brain centers that foster your unique creative genius. Those are the three keys to being really able to activate creativity on demand as an entrepreneur. And there is a science to doing that. So you don't need to feel like just because you don't feel like a creative person right now, it is not possible for you. It is absolutely possible to elevate your creative capacity, and you can use neuroscience to do that. July 29th to August 2nd, I am going to be running a brand new program, a brand new 5-part mini training series, part challenge called The Creative Edge. I designed this program for entrepreneurs who really want to understand the science behind how to elevate your creative capacity on demand. As I said, it's part training. There's going to be short, 10 to 15 minute training videos each day to watch. And then I'm going to give you a little challenge with a brain training activity that is going to activate those creative centers that we've been talking about. You're going to learn 5 simple neuroscience-backed training strategies to inspire that creativity anytime you need it. Like I said, it's coming up in a couple of weeks here. Registration officially opens on Monday, so keep your eye on your email so you can be the first to snag a spot. It's only going to be $27, 5 days to amplify your creativity. Definitely going to be worth it. And it's going to be pretty fun. These exercises are really fun to do. They're not only going to inspire your creativity and your imagination and that divergent thinking, they're going to be fun to do them as well. They're not going to feel like a chore or feel like you're doing something really outside yourself as well, or something really like woo. There's no woo in this. It is really science based and you're going to love it. Okay, like I said, keep an eye on your email. More on that coming Monday. Bye for now.